Welcome everybody, this is coinpicker.us, going old school about a presentation I'm going to make today. Some of it's going to be for just the general YouTube audience, those of you who are watching now, and then I'm going to get into some recommended action steps and talk about the strong probability of events through 2020 that will be extraordinarily impactful, and that'll be for my subscribers only. But there's plenty of meat for everybody here, so stay tuned. Okay, this is not going to be one of my epic long presentations. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, and there'll be a little bit more for the subscribers. It gets into definite action steps, but we're going to talk about the crypto trend update, which is positive and not necessarily unexpected. It's sort of something I've been talking about for a while, that we're going to move around in a certain area and then begin to trend up towards the end of the summer. That looks like it's happening. But are we seeing EOS break out for real? And is LTC about to rise? And are there some altcoin projects to consider? So we're going to cover that, and we're going to get into the financial market trend, because I mean, I'm not strictly a crypto channel. I'm basically looking for the best investment anywhere, and for a long period of time, crypto was that area. Then it shifted somewhat to the financial market. So I'm always looking for profit. To me, the profit spends the same whether you make it in crypto or whether you make it in the financial market. And even though I definitely promote crypto, I am not attached to it in terms of making trading profit. So with that said, there's major profit opportunity ahead in the financial market, and things are playing out essentially as I have expected thus far, and I think we're going to see some real excitement in the very near term that can lead to dramatic profits on both sides of the trade. Then I'm going to get into some strong probability of events. It'll be a series of events that lead to very big opportunities or losses, depending on which side of the fence you are, and that's going to naturally lead to action steps. So let's jump right into it. If we look at, let's take a look at BTC here. Okay, so we look at BTC on a monthly basis. We've got potential upside on a monthly basis because the stochastic RSI, and of course it can hang out in this area at a very long time, just like you saw it hang out here. So in Bitcoin, things operate, in the crypto space, they operate a little bit differently. Normally in stock market world, the stochastic RSI is not going to spend as much time either above or below. But crypto, it does. Also in the CCI, in the crypto world, it tends not to go below the lower bound as much. So you could almost pick zero as sort of the lower end, because that's what tends to happen. But on a monthly basis, we're poised for potentially an upside move, but not a massive one. Now on a weekly basis, we've got the upside move in shape. Unfortunately, the trend on that is strong. I'd like to see the ADX show us more power to the upside trend, but we already had a decent sized move, and it looks like, according to the indicators, that can continue and should continue. It's taken a pause, not unexpected, because it really rushed up pretty quickly. On a daily basis, we topped out. I mean, that's what in the video that I recorded the other day, we topped out. I said, not a good place to get in. If you got in and rode it, fine. It wasn't a huge move, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of a little under 10% or something like that, or around maybe a little over 10% if you got into the 6,000 mark. But basically, not a massive move in the crypto world, but it is definitely going to take a little time to recoup. Weekly basis, we still have some room above to move. So that's where that is. BTC definitely has some room above. Now let's talk about EOS, which has been obviously underappreciated for a period of time. I mean, it had a nice bounce up. At some point, it was in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 10 or high or something like that. And I'm doing it versus Bitcoin here because I want a relative value. But on a weekly basis, even though Bitcoin has risen and EOS has recovered somewhat, on a weekly basis, EOS is poised for a very nice move to the upside. Very nice move. How high? Well, since we're in BTC world, it's a little challenging to predict, but I would say I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it doesn't tag the moving average at this point. So you're looking at Not a massive move to the upside, but it would definitely be impactful for those of you, those owning EOS. And I've held on to my EOS. I've held it for a while. I think what's beginning to happen is that some of the projects are beginning to realize that EOS answers a lot of the issues that they're running into with, Ethereum is obviously not even close. Ethereum Classic may have some, couple of advantages, even with the Lightning networks that work with Ethereum, and they're by different names, Kaizen Network and all that. It's still not even a game between EOS and those. So dApps moving forward that would ride on a blockchain, EOS is the natural, generally speaking, the natural fit. And I think that's beginning to be aware, and also some of the decisions that are being made in the EOS sphere regarding how they handled RAM trading and those kinds of things are showing that it's responsive, it's adaptable, it's definitely working as fast as they said it would. It isn't having as many critical issues. I think EOS has a really bright future, and I think it is definitely a trade worth getting into if you haven't already gotten into it. So in the crypto space also, I think right here, yeah. In the crypto space also, EOS is showing distinctive counter trending. So we've got a little bit of a drop in BTC while EOS is still moving up. That's what I love to see. If those of you who followed me for a while know that I consider that to be incredibly important, and it has resulted in some whopper profits. Now let's take a look at where we are. Noah coin looks like a pump or something like that. I mean, it's got a decent market cap, but I don't know very much about it. Looks like some sort of a pump. But what we're seeing is Decentraland and ARK are legitimate projects. EOS obviously legitimate, Komodo legitimate, Decred definitely legitimate. We're seeing some broader strength in the crypto sphere. Now, if we go a little bit deeper, and the reason I bring this up is you're gonna see broad strength in a healthy market. When you're in a narrow rising market, just like some certain stocks, look at this. Pillar's definitely legitimate. Safe Exchange, Scribe, I'm not familiar with Smart Mesh, yes. I mean, we're seeing some reasonable breadth to an uptrend in the market. And these are moving against Bitcoin dropping. Revain, definitely. Purecoin's one of the oldies, but weak. And Salt is, it's a real business, whether you like it or not. Centrality, Ubiq. So we're seeing breadth, and that is a super positive sign. So is it safe to get back in the water with crypto? At this point, I would say safer than it has been for a period of time. BTC is not, at least the way I'm assessing it, not showing a major liftoff phase here at this exact juncture. However, it's also not showing significant weakness, meaning it didn't rise up in the stochastics on the weekly basis and the monthly basis, indicating we have a long-term back and filling phase. Nothing like that at all. So when you find projects that you like, and I'll be guiding my subscribers to it, it's safe to get in. It's safe to get in. And some of these high risers that Pillar, which I'm familiar with, Safe Exchange, Scurry, they're worth looking at as to what's going on. Is there some new development, or is there some new twist, is there some new wrinkle that I can ride it for a 10, 20% or higher trade? Because as I said, as I've always said, the crypto market, most of the altcoins are trades, not investments. Some of them, the core coins and EOS and things like that, Bitcoin has been an investment. Litecoin for a period of time was an investment. Speaking of which, let's go back a page. Actually, let me do it here. Let's see what LTC is doing versus BTC, because that was a story. LTC looks like it's about to make a pretty healthy move against BTC, meaning it's been an underperformer. It's been well under on the low end of the CCI, so in the bottom channel, expecting a reversal, and it looks like it's about to get it, because we have an uptrend here, and the strength of this move looks pretty significant. So LTC could be a very strong trade. Now that's on a weekly basis. On a daily basis, it looks like sort of trending to down a little bit. Not that you're too concerned about it. On a monthly basis, doesn't look as strong on a monthly basis. On a monthly basis, it still looks like it has room to sort of back and fill, because although, in fairness, this has already reached the bottom edge, so it could be trending up here. But I would say on a weekly basis, LTC looks like it's ready to make a little bit of a move. It's not something that I think is going to rise for a super long time, though, just FYI. But EOS looks very strong. Some of the other projects look very strong. We're seeing breadth in the market, which we haven't seen in a while, and that is extremely positive. Now, a couple of things that are of interest I want to bring up, and this is going a little bit off the sheet here because we covered EOS. Yes, EOS is breaking out. LTC, yes, briefly, and some altcoin projects to consider. I looked at some of them, Pillar, those other ones. But I want to talk about something else that I think is rather interesting and it reflects on the long-term potential. Apparently, there are only supposedly 8 dApps combined with 300 plus active users for EOS and Ethereum. I do not believe it. I think what they're doing is confusing dApps with any kind of projects. So, I mean, for one thing, there are thousands of tokens riding on Ethereum alone. Each one of those could be considered a dApp in its own. Ethereum is so new and is just really flowered that it hasn't even had time to flap its wings. So I would say that EOS is, when EOS has its first full-fledged exchange running, this is going to blow it away. It's not going to go 300 daily active users. It'll be 30,000 or something like that. And that'll also eat up a fair amount of bandwidth on EOS because an exchange eats up a tremendous amount of bandwidth. Even a relatively small one can eat up a lot of bandwidth. So I think that this is just early to declare the death of either Ethereum or EOS. But Ethereum is way behind the 8 ball. EOS is the new game in town. And I just wanted to point that out. The other thing is Brave Browser, which is Basic Attention Token. Now, if we look at Basic Attention Token here, BAT, we'll see that it hasn't absolutely set the world on fire in terms of return. I mean, its peak was in the plus 80, over 80, and now it's 26 or something like that, 22. So it hasn't exactly lit the world on fire yet. If you look at this, it's had 10 million downloads in Google Play. That doesn't include iOS, may or may not be there. And of course, millions and millions of people use Brave on their computer browsers. So it's achieving substantial market share, but it hasn't been entirely reflected in the tokens. Once that kicks over, because I use Brave all the time, and it doesn't, the browser doesn't request that I use the tokens as much as it could. And I think once they convert over, you could see Brave really rocket significantly, because what they're going to do is move all the ad income over to the token environment. And that could be millions. You don't realize it, but every user on a browser is having thousands and thousands of dollars spent by various companies trying to reach them. By the time you end up an entire year, if you were to total all the money spent by advertisers trying to reach a particular user, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't crack over $100,000. I mean, it would be a ton of money, if not higher. So we've covered a couple of things, some altcoin projects to consider. Now let's talk about the financial market trend update really quickly and some interesting developments. Let's start with this. This beautiful graphic, I have to give credit to stockboardasset.com. Beautiful graphic. What does it show us? The blue line is the Federal Reserve monetary base. Now, the monetary base in the broadest sense is M3. The Federal Reserve in the height of nonsense, and I want to use another word that accuses them of things and calls them bad names, but I'm just going to say nonsense. The height of nonsense says that it was too expensive to calculate M3. Yeah. This is the company that, quote, a company, a Federal Reserve prints money. Yeah, like that matters to them. Anyway, the M2 base, which is all that's revealed now, but M2 and M3 agree at about 95%-ish, agreement basically. If you look at the S&P 500 and you look at the monetary base, which is the expansion of the monetary base, you're going to notice that the monetary base leads the stock market expansion both on the way up and on the way down. So for the most part, I mean, it's not strictly, it's not a one-to-one correlation, but it's pretty darn close. So what does it tell you now that the monetary base is drifting lower and the S&P 500 has drifted higher? That gap is going to be filled, and often filled harder to the downside. But it also tells you that a bulk of the expansion in the S&P 500 is due to the increase in the monetary base. Now let's take a look at an area that most people, you're probably aware of it. You're simply not calculating it in all the returns. And we're going to look at shadow stats method of calculating inflation. So if you take what is reported as inflation, they say the Federal Reserve says, oh, around 2% or something like that. That's their goal. Of course, it's not. It's nowhere near that 2%. The actual inflation rate is probably closer to 7% and has been forever, for a very long time. If you calculate it in the 1980 way, it's even 10, 11%. But let's just take 7% for grins. If you then discount the rise in the stock market by the 7% inflation rate, you're going to find that those returns are nowhere near as good as they appear to be. And what is the inflation rate? Effectively, the inflation rate is the increase in the monetary base versus the increase in goods and services produced. So the reason all this is important is because something I pointed out a while ago that has shown up. When I last made my video, the dollar index was like 96 something, okay? Now it's at 94. It was 96.3, something like that. I mean, we can look it up because my last video was back in June, and I think June 18th, something like that. And let's take a look where we were. If we go back June 18, yes, it was 95. Actually, it peaked up at 96. So we're a little bit lower. So it's a little bit lower than or a little bit less than I thought it was. But we peaked up at 96. So while we're peaking here, going up and then dropping, and a big aspect of it is that you had an increase in the value of the dollar and then a decrease. The increase and the decrease are sometimes more important than the absolute value. What happened when we had an increase in the dollar? Well, you all probably remember what happened. The coin market cap, if you look at it, dropped like a rock. Year to date, coin market cap was in June, it was up here and fell down significantly. It was sort of trundling down here and even went lower. This was all while the dollar was on its way up. Now that the dollar has begun to reverse and dropped from 96.6 down to 94.5, that's a significant drop, by the way. A couple of things have happened. Bitcoin has gotten a bid, and gold and silver have come back from the dead, slightly. I'm not declaring it, they're going to run away right now, but they're not. And what has continued, the wheat and the soft commodities, as I have said for time and time again, what has been going on in the soft commodities? They have been going supernova. July, June, August, they bounced up here, they bounced down, they're going back up. If you draw a trend from here on up, that is a beautiful and massive uptrend. Massive. Blows away the returns in the stock market. Blows away the returns in the stock market since then. And I have been talking about it for quite a while. So that trend is certainly playing out and will continue to play out. Continue to play out. So the financial market trends that I'm talking about, the major profit opportunities ahead, I'm going to go over that really quickly, just generically for everybody. Okay, let's take a look at the major indices right now. And if we look at the Dow, S&P 500, especially the NASDAQ, take a look at the NASDAQ. What you're going to see is not going to be a surprise. Oh, I hope I didn't just click on something I didn't want. Yeah, I didn't. Okay. Let's just go into a one year. Okay. We are in rarefied air up here. Rarefied air, primed for a reversal. Massive, massive reversal. I could see it reversing down 72.50-ish. Of course, I'd have to stop at 7,500 for a little bit, but big reversal. My first recommendation, and something that I'm doing, I'm not telling you, I'm not a financial advisor for you, I'm just telling you my own thing, is shorting the biggest leaders in that market. And I've talked about it. You go long with put options, long dated put options, and you take your profit whenever you get it. You don't wait for it at the bottom to fall out. You take your profit, set it up again. Take your profit, set it up again. And you're going to have your day. I've already said it in the past. I said it once with Netflix. You had a massive down day with Netflix. I said it once about Facebook and the other ones. You had a huge down day with Facebook where you could have just, if you held on and said, well, I want more money, then you're just killing the trade. The trade was to buy those long dated options, wait for that day that they're going to drop, which they are going to drop significantly, and make the money. Make the money. So that's one trade, one aspect of the trade, and it's, it doesn't take a genius to see that trade. It's just too extreme. You want the highest PE projects. But one thing I want to talk about here really quickly is we're something like 60 plus days, 70 days away from the midterm elections. I don't want to get into the politics too much of it because I'm just focused on how I can help subscribers make money. Essentially, Trump is friendly for the friendly for the economy, not necessarily the dollar, but friendly for the economy. And the disturbance of trying to impeach him and getting him out is destructive towards the economy. The tendency, it looks like that may be what's coming down the pike. Now, I'll get into more detail on it for subscribers, but essentially, you want to be cautious in this period of time until you have a bead on which way the dominoes are going to fall. Because if they fall towards the negative side, Trump is heading for impeachment or can't do anything, the economy is going to struggle significantly, the stock market's going to turn around significantly, and the dollar may drop precipitously from its perch right now. And if that happens, then commodities, the bond yields are going to spike, and you're going to see a definite, the trends that I've talked about, you're going to see them rocket higher. That's something to consider. So the political situation is very dire and serious, and it's going to impact the financial markets significantly. So just keep that in mind. But in terms of the NASDAQ, I'd say, the QQQ, if you're going to go short it, long date it, or short fund, I see that it has a significant downside potential, and that could be a very positive trade. The upside potentials are, of course, in the commodities, as I've talked about. Wheat has been a great trade. I talked about it a while ago. Oil probably is going to be a great trade. Copper is at a relative low. Silver and gold, all towards the end of the year. Copper is a little bit trickier because there's an oversupply. But silver and gold towards the end of the year, as we're getting into it now, I could see it really, really ramping up. And when things unfold towards the election, we begin to get a really questionable political backdrop for the dollar. Silver and gold more than likely are going to catch a massive bid. Around the world, they're catching a massive bid. It's the United States is the only one that hasn't. So the rest of this with specific recommendations and the strong probability of events through 2020 on recommended action steps is going to be for the subscribers. But if you're not a subscriber and you would like to know exactly what I'm steering towards, you can go to coinpicker.us, check out, just sign up for the email, and I send it out periodically. I'm working to send it out more frequently with fairly in-depth guidance on cryptos, financial projects, and ways to avoid losses and maximize your return. And it's geared towards people who aren't necessarily day trading, but they're looking for I say 20% plus profit hits in the near term, plus long-term strategic holds. I mix it up a little bit so you can make some quick cash in a near-term trading, and then long-term cash where you really build 3, 4, 5x, 6x returns. That's the objective, and basically I'm just sharing you with things that I do. So you can go ahead and sign up there. But for the moment, for the moment, those are the updates for the crypto trend, for the EOS breaking out for real, and all of that other good news, and some altcoins to consider. Basically, some very strong news for the crypto space, and I see that it is recouping some of the trend that it had before. And based on the dollar moves, which of course is tied somewhat to politics and a few other aspects like that, based on the dollar moves, it looks like crypto is going to catch a significant bit. So, coinpicker.us signing out.